Hey everyone, Pastor George here. I'm back and we have another Wednesday Bible study. So let's just jump right into it. So we are going to be picking up where we left off last time with Judges 7. As you'll remember, just in case, because I know you guys watch that video every day while I was gone, so you would never forget what I talked about last time. But just in case you happen to be visiting for the first time and seeing this video, then here's your answer. So Judges 6 is all about the call of Gideon. He's the new judge. And Gideon is a guy who is afraid to do what the Lord asks him. And that's kind of a recurring theme throughout the book of Judges, but especially the life of Gideon, because you'll even see that today. And basically, what happened last time is the Lord assures Gideon that he is going to help him through performing these kind of miraculous signs for him and getting him to tear down a statue of an idol that's in the village where he grew up. And so today it picks up from that and into the great battle that Gideon is going to fight. Although it's interesting to kind of call it a battle, and we'll see why that is. So the first thing that happens in this chapter today is Gideon and his army that he's assembled go and they camp south of where the Midianites are, these people who have invaded. And they're waiting there, and while they're there, the first thing that happens is God kind of gives tests for them to do. The first test is for the people that are with Gideon to see kind of where their hearts are at. So Gideon gives them the option to leave, and many people take him up on that, and they do so. And that's actually from Deuteronomy. That's one of the reasons that you can get out of military service. If you go to Deuteronomy, there's in chapter 20, there's a whole kind of list. It's like if you've been married recently, if you've recently bought a house, if it's harvest time, if you're scared, those are kind of the reasons that you can get out of military service. But if none of those apply, then you stay. So a lot of people leave because of that, right? You see again this kind of theme of fear of not being able to trust God. Then the Lord gives a second test, and it's just kind of interesting that this happens because I think the Lord, through doing this, is trying to show the hearts or the willingness of the people to fight. And it sounds like a weird test. Basically what happens is people who they find water source, and the Lord says if anyone like bends down to drink it, then they're out of the army. If they grab their hand and lift it up to their face, that's different. So they can stay. And that might seem like a weird test, but like what's the purpose of that? Well, the purpose of that is to see who's going to be who's so focused on kind of earthly pleasure, earthly things, that they're going to be vulnerable, right? Because to get down leaves you vulnerable to attack and stuff like that. And so what happens then is that happens, and then Gideon is only left with 300 men, and it seems like completely insurmountable odds. But what the Lord does here is, instead of having them fight in, I guess, a traditional sense, you see the people of Israel kind of focus on doing this thing where they trick them, right? So what happens is, what they do is they gather a bunch of empty jars and they put torches inside the jars, and what they then do is they sneak up on their camp in the middle of the night, and they shatter all of these things and create a bunch of noise, and it freaks the Midianites out, right? They think they're attacking. And I think, like, in our modern world, we usually think of armies as being very, what we'll call, regular. That means trained and things like that. And that's possible, but at this time, like, the Babylonians had stuff like that, the Assyrians had stuff like that, the Egyptians had stuff like that. But a lot of these armies are like the Israelites, which are irregular, right? They're kind of people that are not trained to fight. They're just conscripted, and then they go and fight, and that's what happens. And that's probably what's going on with the Midianites here. And they're also, this we like to think of war having like rules and people having uniforms and stuff like that, but that wouldn't really happen at this time, right? You would kind of bring whatever you had. And so this throws the enemy camp into complete chaos because they can't tell who's a foe and who's not. And it's interesting because you have this one line, right, where they say, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon," and that's kind of their shout. And interestingly enough, as far as this text is shown, like, the Israelites don't actually kill anyone themselves. What happens is they throw these people into such a panic that they start killing each other because they don't know who's a friend who's a foe and they flee. And so they win this battle just through tricking the enemy into thinking that there's a lot of them and that they've infiltrated their camp. It's the middle of the night, things like that. So then Gideon wins this battle. And Gideon then calls to other tribes to come help him. And one of these tribes is Ephraim. And basically what happens is these other tribes come and they hunt down these princes of Midian, Oreb and Zeb. And they kill them. Now, and that's how it ends. And so that you might think that that's where this narrative is kind of drawing to a close. Well, it's not. There's other things that Gideon has to do. But I think what's important here, because this is going to play a big role in Judges 8, is to see the dysfunction or the disunity of the Israelites. They're not all attacking together. They're breaking up and hunting down people by themselves. And that's going to be a hint at the growing fissures that are starting to form in Israel, which we've seen already, but they're going to become more pronounced now. So that's what we talked about today in Bible study, and that's what we're going to be weeding from as we go into next week. So I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and I will see you tomorrow for a new thing. Peace out.